Yo, what is up, NBA fans? It's Mike here. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, especially if you're watching this on Thanksgiving, as I'm pretty sure that's when this video is going to drop. I hope you're all having a good holiday. Hope you're all having a good week. If you are lucky, like I was, you get the whole week off. If you are not lucky, I hope still that your Thanksgiving's going well, even if you got to do some BS school this week, because your institution is not very nice. Now, that out of the way, getting right into the video, alright? Today I feel like talking about the Houston Rockets and the Brooklyn Nets, specifically, and pretty obviously if you saw the title of this video, in the context of the James Harden trade, because it's pretty dang likely Harden is going to be traded this season. The Houston Rockets have made some questionable things that made me doubt that for a second over the last week, but I'm still pretty confident that they're going to trade him. Alright, and before we get into the trade itself, let's look at the Rockets real quick. They signed DeMarcus Cousins to a 1-year deal, and they signed Christian Wood to a 3-year deal worth $41 million. So at first glance, they're a little sus. Like, when I first saw this, specifically the DeMarcus Cousins trade, I was like, wait, are they not rebuilding? Because you'd think that, like, that's a great, like, low-risk, high-reward move would be DeMarcus Cousins, and even if he didn't pan out, they signed Christian Wood, who is a very good center for their team. I would think, like, if they hadn't already traded Robert Covington, I'd be like, dang, maybe they're actually going to try to make this work. But they did. They did trade Robert Covington, so at the moment they have very weak wing defense. You know, they got to be trying to rebuild, because they traded Robert Covington for just picks. Right? You know, it's not like they traded him for any potential assets. They traded the dude for picks. That was that. They traded one of their best players, best defenders, you know, best players who's not a star. Anyway, I should specify. So they are going to be trading Harden and Westbrook this season, or at least James Harden. Russell Westbrook is more questionable, purely because I don't know if anyone wants him. Like, if the Wizards John Wall thing doesn't work out, and they don't manage to trade him to the Wizards, I don't know who they could possibly trade him for. I mean, maybe Blake Griffin if the Pistons want that, but I think Russell Westbrook's contract is actually either a year longer or just as long as Blake Griffin's, and it's more expensive. So that I'm not positive on that. I could be wrong about that, but I think his contract's at least as long and a very similar price. So I don't know why the Pistons would do that, because that doesn't really help them. They're trying to tank too. So, I don't know. We'll see if Westbrook manages to get traded somewhere. If not, I mean, honestly, at this point in his career, the Houston Rockets could tank moderately well. Preferably they trade Westbrook and get rid of him, but, like, they could tank to some extent without him. Worst come to worst, they wait until next year, and I think next year may be the year if some other teams decide to tank. When Westbrook has one less year in his deal, that's when they want him. Just as a big contract, and then they get his name off the books in a few years. But getting off topic here, they're probably going to trade Westbrook. They are almost certainly, however, going to trade Harden. Okay, Harden turned down his $50 million extension, the largest contract in NBA history. The man wants out, okay? Like, look, I can't believe he turned down that extension, frankly, just because $50 million per year is an insane amount. Like, that is so much money. I would even take that money, even if it meant playing for the Knicks, okay? I would play for the New York Knicks for that kind of money. That's how incredibly good that money is. And the Houston Rockets are a much better franchise than the New York Knicks. So, you know, James Harden really wants to be winning if he's turning that down, and I think he wants to go to the Brooklyn Nets, and I think that's what's happening, because realistically, the Nets can make a better offer than the Sixers. The Sixers have made it very clear that they're going all in on Ben and Joel, as they freaking should. Stop saying stupid bullshit about one of them getting traded. It's not gonna happen, okay? At least not for at least a year, okay? We are gonna see this team with spacing. Y'all are gonna see Ben and Joel can be probably the second best duo in the league, honestly, behind LeBron and AD. Honestly, I really do believe that, but this is not a Sixers video. Let's talk about the Nets trade, okay? The Nets offered something along the lines of Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, and like 2 first-round picks, okay? At least that is the trade that I heard, like 2 or 3 first-round picks with those guys. Now, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, alright, I really do not want to give up Jared Allen in this trade, and I think it's actually less necessary now that the Rockets got Christian Wood. But you do need to make contracts work. If I'm then, I'm trading fucking DeAndre Jordan, okay? Look, if you're getting James Harden, I think Kyrie and KD will be satisfied enough to get over the DeAndre Jordan trade because the man's trash. Let's just be straight, okay? The man is trash. The dude is not a good player. He has not been a good player since he left the Clippers. On the Mavericks last year, he was literally one of the worst defenders in the league. And considering he's been an offensive negative his entire career, because the man's entire offensive game is literally just catching lobs, like that's all he does. He catches lobs and he dunks. That's all the man does. He does not really have a post game. He has absolutely no shooting ability. Man can't even hit a free throw. Man makes Shaq look like a good free throw shooter. So the guy's worthless on offense. And on defense, he's now a bad defender the last few years because he's old. You know, he's old. It just happens. The man can't defend in space whatsoever. He's an okay enough rim protector still, but like, he's not a great one. He's certainly not an elite rim protector by any means. So, dude's a big negative for your team. I say you try to throw in Jordan, who is a contract that is big enough to help with the trade with Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie. That helps out the Rockets, okay? Karis LeVert's a good young player. Spencer Dinwiddie, expiring contract at some point. DeAndre Jordan is a player who's not going to ruin your attempts at tanking, okay? And then I'd say you throw in like 3 or 4 picks, okay? You give them all the picks you want, because at this point, the Nets, you gotta go all in, because this is your chance, okay? This is your chance. You have got to make this work. You give them every freaking pick you can. You go like Thunder Paul or Clippers Paul George trade, okay? And that's not looking great for the Clippers, but the thing is, they still needed to make that trade. They still had to do it, okay? Because you need to keep your superstars. That's what you got to do. To pair James Harden with Kyrie and Kevin Durant, that's maybe the best offensive trio in NBA history, and I would say the only one that really compares to it very well is the Warriors with Steph, KD, and Klay, honestly. And it's pretty iffy if that one's better, because the difference is you got prime KD and prime Steph, and then Klay is not as good as any of those other guys, but I don't know, man, it's pretty dang close. The rest of the team would kind of suck, yeah, but if you get James Harden, that's what you got to do. Okay, that's what you got to do. Now, for the Rockets, should they accept this move? Because they seem right now they are not in a hurry to trade James Harden, and that's smart of them. They shouldn't be in a hurry to trade James Harden. Because look, the Nets have said they're not trying to sell their entire future for James Harden, and that's smart. You know, you want to give up as little as possible. The Rockets, meanwhile, want them to give up as much as possible. So, they're kind of like 2 opposing ideologies here. The thing is, though, the Nets are going to get into this season, and I'm telling you all, right now, they're not going to be as good as you all think they are. Okay? They are not going to look like contenders coming into this season. There's going to be chemistry issues as Kyrie, Dinwiddie, and LeVert all want the ball in amount on the perimeter. Not to mention Kevin Durant's going to want the ball in amount. Okay, Kevin Durant is not going to come in on day one looking like a superstar. Okay, the best, maybe not looking like a superstar is too harsh. He's not going to look like his old self. Okay, Kevin Durant is not going to come back at 100%. Some people keep saying, oh, you know, the injury, you know, he's not based on athleticism, blah, blah, blah. The dude's 30 years old. He's skinny as they come. He's had leg injuries in the past. This man is not going to come back like Dominique Wilkins, because Dominique Wilkins is one of the most athletic players ever, and he's also the only player ever who was like a really good player to come back at 100%, okay? This injury took out Kobe. This injury has taken out so many players, okay? So many players. Kevin Durant is not just going to magically be okay just because he doesn't dunk as much as some of the other guys, alright? He's not. The best case scenario, and what the Nets are hoping for, is he comes back at like 85%, and he's still like a borderline superstar. And even then, I think it's going to take a couple months for him to get back in the groove, because the man hasn't played basketball in a year, and he's going to be a little rusty. So the Nets are going to start this season looking pretty rough, which the Rockets are expecting and counting on, and then they're going to get desperate, because the Nets are going to be halfway through the year, and they're going to be a 7th seed, and they're going to go, alright, if we got to throw in an extra pick or 2 to get James Harden, that's what we're going to do. That is what the Rockets are counting on. The Rockets are smart for that, too. That's exactly what they should count on. There's a very safe bet for them, because, you know, what are they in a hurry for? They want to suck every last cent out of the Brooklyn Nets franchise for James Harden, because he's one of the best players in the NBA. In my opinion, he is still the fifth best player in the NBA, alright? I'm saying KD is going to be better than KD coming back because KD's injury. Alright, I really think that. So, they need to get everything they possibly can for him, alright? And I think at the end of the day, it's going to work out well for both teams. I'm not saying the Nets are definitely winning the title if they get James Harden, because if they do get him, they suddenly have no depth and no defense, and possibly some chemistry issues between Kyrie and Harden, although we'd see if that's legit, because everything with Kyrie chemistry issues are overblown, even if they are very much a real thing. So it's hard to say with that. And the Rockets, you know, they want as many picks as possible, okay? The Rockets general manager needs to do everything he can to look like Sam Presti 2.0. This man needs to whore picks, okay? That's what he needs to do right now. So, I would not expect James Harden to be traded in the next week, in the next month. Certainly not before the start of the season, is what I'm saying. I don't expect him to be traded. I think we're going to get a few months into the season, and then I do predict James Harden is going to get traded to the Brooklyn Nets for a mega haul, okay? Every pick they can possibly give him, plus Karis LeVert and some other cap filler guys, alright? That is what I believe is going to happen. You know, maybe I'll be wrong, but I think that's going to be the best deal for both teams, because at the end of the day, the Nets as they are right now, I don't think they're going to look like contenders. Maybe I'm dead wrong and they don't trade for Harden, but as of right now, I do not think they're going to look like legit contenders on day one. So yeah, that is all I had for this video, guys. I just wanted to make like a real legit video on this trade. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to the channel, check out some of my other content, and once again, everyone, please have a good, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a good holiday week, and yeah, have a good one, y'all.